What is going on, Nose Nation? It's Matthew Lennox at the Voice of College Football, Florida State. Hope everybody is having a great Saturday. Long work week. I'm sure for everybody. So I hope everybody's enjoying some good college football action and kicking back and enjoying it. As far as Florida State goes, we had a monumental win last week against Alabama. Nobody gave us a chance to win that game. And not only did Florida State beat Alabama, but we physically dominated them on the line of scrimmage. And that was something that I was worried about going into the game. Were the lines of scrimmage, because as you guys know, last year we were so terrible on both. And I was really worried about that going against Alabama, but we came out and we physically beat them up from start to finish. It was a great performance. The game was never in doubt. Outside of their first drive, I think it was 17 plays or whatever, when they scored and took the lead. Florida State dominated the rest of the game. So that was a huge, huge win. And of course, not only was it huge because you start off the season 1-0, beating a very talented team like Alabama, but it helped a lot with recruiting. We had over 100 recruits there during that game. A lot of them has said some really good things about Florida State since then. And also, Jonah Winston, the 3-star receiver in 2026 class, the brother of Jameis Winston, he committed right after the game. So that was huge for us to get that win. But today, we had to go up against the East Texas A&M Lions. Not the sexy opponent that Alabama is, but games like these are the ones that you want to make sure that your team is up for these games, because coming off such a high, beating Alabama and then playing a team like East Texas A&M, which is not a powerhouse, they're a FCS school and stuff like that. So these are the games that you have to be kind of wary of. You want guys to not have a letdown, not have a hangover, not take them too lightly or anything like that. And man, uh, Florida State they not only did they respond well, but it was just from the opening tip, you can see that there was no hangover. Um, it was no hangover at all. The first quarter, Florida State had a 21-0 lead, at the end of the period. And speaking of the first quarter, Deuce Robinson is here, ladies and gentlemen. The transfer wide receiver from USC. Man, what a show he put on. 4 catches, 160 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. That's just crazy numbers. And on top of that, his 160 yards were the most that any player has had at Florida State in a quarter since 2015. He ended up with, I think, 5 catches for 173 yards, but it was just good to see him finally getting rhythm and show why he came here. 6'6", 223. His length, his athletic ability. He showed some of his speed today. His hands, on that second touchdown catch, it was a one-hander. So it was really good to see him come out and kind of get his feet wet more so than he did in the Alabama game. And he wouldn't have been able to do that without Tommy Castellanos, who remained sharp. He only threw, I think, 10 passes today. He only threw 14 last week, but very efficient. Completed 7 of them for 230 yards, 3 scores. You can tell he just looks so comfortable in this offense with Gus Malzahn, and that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. This offense is tailor-made for a guy with his skill set. Gus Malzahn loves dual threat quarterbacks, and he also had him at UCF. So this is the perfect match. He looks completely comfortable, rejuvenized from his time at Boston College. Things didn't go right there. He didn't feel like he was given the most opportunity to shine there, but he's definitely doing that now. He just looks fantastic. Gavin Sawchuk, transfer running back we got from Oklahoma. man, he did his thing. You know, the numbers won't wow you as far as the totality, but he averaged 4.4 yards carry, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and also caught a touchdown in the air, 53 yarder. So with Roydell Williams, on the shelf for a while, you know, he's probably going to be RB1 for a while. He just looked, very decisive. He was running in the hole. He ran hard, ran physical, and just showing his dual threat ability. That's why they brought him here, to be a dual threat, not just on the ground but also in the air. So it was good to see him have a good performance. And also, man, we got to talk about these freshmen that got a chance to shine, the freshmen, because the game was such a blowout. We won 77-3. So by the time the second half came, we had a lot of backups in. Man, uh, you know, Usman Cromar, who showed flashes against Alabama, he averaged 7.4 yards a carry today. We only had 5 carries for 37 yards, but he just looked very good. He ran very hard. You could see you know, uh, his ability to, plant his foot and go. He looked quick, he looked sharp. Then he ended up catching a 43-yard touchdown pass. So showed his dual threat ability. And that was another reason why he was recruited. It wasn't just a runner. He was also good out of the backfield. So he did his thing today. Of course, we saw some backup quarterbacks. Speaking of which, Kevin Speary, the guy we flipped from Oklahoma, he got in after Castellanos sat down, and he actually threw a touchdown to Javon Boggs, the freshman sensation, who wasn't able to get on the stat sheet last week, but he scored his first touchdown. So that was definitely encouraging to see, him getting his feet wet and see what it's like to get in the end zone, And then Kai Dancy, y'all. My goodness. The crazy thing about Makai Danzy is that he's known for his speed. When you watch him, especially on this the end around touchdown he had today for 53 yards, he doesn't even look like he's moving fast, but he just separates from everybody, man. It's just his speed is going to be a big, big plus for this offense. And as I wrote about last week for FSU Wire, he and Jalen Lucas need to be a part of every game plan. Those guys are too explosive. They cause too many problems, in multiple ways, for those guys not to be a part of any game plan. I don't care who we're playing, where we're at. Those guys need to have the ball in their hands at all times at some point. And yeah, man, it was just really good to see that. Also, Daryl Jackson, the senior defensive tackle, he looked very, very dominant once again, pushing off as a linebacker. He had a sack in this game early. Earl Little Jr., I mean, that guy's just shy of a cannon, man. His energy, his aggressiveness, is just so infectious. It's almost like he's the emotional leader of the defense. He ended up having an interception too. He almost ran back for a touchdown. So yeah, Earl just continues to shine. Also, Jeremiah Wilson, the transfer corner we got from Houston, he had an interception. So it was good to see him make a play and do things like that. So that was encouraging. And also, guys, the overall mentality of this team looks different. Once the backups got in and they were able to get some run or whatever, you would think they take their foot off the gas or there'd be a little letdown, but there was none of that. I mean, guys were still competing very hard. Even though they were going against a lesser opponent, the game was already over. The intensity didn't stop. The aggressiveness, didn't stop. Miles Zane calling offensive plays, even with the second, third string quarterbacks. With Glenn, who ended up getting into Scott Glenn and Kevin Spear, he was still aggressive. He was still attacking downfield, still trying to keep these guys sharp. And it showed. And it's just a different mentality. The defense the same way. Guys like Mandrill Desir, who was going to be a star. He had another sack today. To go along with the one he had last week. Tyden Lee, the freshman, he got some burn. Antonio Cromartie Jr., cornerback, he was in the fourth quarter. So Um, yeah, man, it was just a total team win across the board. From the starters, the backups, the third strings. I mean, they even had walk-ons that came into the game and got some shine. So yeah, man, it was just great to see, man. Like I said at the beginning of this video, these are the games that you can have letdowns. With a opponent like East Texas A&M, but Florida State played them like they were playing Alabama. There was no let up. They didn't let the foot off the gas. So um, just total team win today. Total team win today. Um, just going from where we were last year, 2-10 coming into this season. Um, there were a lot of questions, and also a lot of doubts from the fan base about everything, and that's understandable because it was such a drop off from 13-1 the year before. But kudos to Mike Norvell and the way he revamped the staff for one thing. Um, I'll get back to that in a second. And the way they end up closing the recruiting class in 2025, and you just see what these guys are preaching, what they're teaching. Um, it's showing up fast. Like this is like a completely different program. If you would have watched us last year and you see us now, I mean, it's literally night and day. It's just really, really positive to see, um, you know, the turnaround that they've made. But getting back to when the backups and all that, like, we're in, all you guys that watched the game today, if you noticed, even when the backups were in doing their thing, like the sideline was not quiet. Guys weren't sitting down. The starters were on the sidelines cheering these guys on. Like you see them dapping up the backups, high fiving them when they score, cheering them when they get, third down stops or big plays. Like, like it. That's when you got a real team because it could be easy for them to just, take a seat, chill, laugh it up. But they were cheering for these guys who normally, you know, are not going to get a whole lot of playing time, especially if we end up being the team that we want to be, and we're competitive, and we're a team that has a shot to do some make some noise. The starters are going to play. Like the backups aren't going to get that much unless we just blow teams out like we did today. So guys took advantage of their opportunities, and just to see the guys in front of them being so happy and cheering, like that's what encourages me too about the team. Not just the talent we have. But we're more talented than people think. It's not just the talent; it's the brotherhood and the camaraderie that you see. Like guys fighting for one another, guys cheering for one another. That's very, very undervalued. In a team sport like football. So that was just great to see, man. Yeah, I have no complaints about you know what I've seen for the most part. Now, I will say that um, I think their kick return team, uh, excuse me, the punt return team needs to get a little better. They looked kind of shaky today. Luckily against an opponent like East Texas A&M, it's not going to show up as much, but they need to get that corrected a little bit. And there were a few little miscues here and there, some penalties and stuff like that, but um, they just look. Not only does Florida State are they playing well, but they just look really disciplined. They look very sure of themselves. Like they just look like a team that has an identity and they know what they want to be. And yeah, give me that coaching staff, man. The players get most of the shine, rightfully so. They're the ones on the field, but I don't think it can be undervalued um, what defensive coordinator Tony White and offensive coordinator Gus Malzahn and offensive line coach Herb Hand have meant to this program. I think those were the three biggest moves of the offseason. I mean, even more so than players, like, because these guys have already put their fingerprint on this program. You look at the defense. I mean, Tony White's 3-3-5 right now. It's just guys are just swarming like to the ball. Like you see, like when guys are running outside, you see 5, 6, 7 guys running to the ball. They're just swarming everywhere. They're playing physical. They're playing smart. They're playing discipline, and they just look so confident. And the offensive line, like we said earlier, was just abysmal last year. Injuries and lineup changes and all that. And um, Yeah, Mike. Yeah, coach staff is definitely big time. I definitely agree. You know, all the lineup changed and all that, but like these guys are just they're really protecting Castellanos, and that was the one thing that I was confident about, even though this group hadn't played together. And they're all coming from different schools, different systems, and all that. But there was a lot of experience. You know, I think like 100 and something starts between the four transfers we got, and thousands of snap of collegiate experience. So that was a plus. But you can tell that Herb Hand has these guys working as one. It's not individual; they're a unit. They look so good, like they look so crisp. And I mean, Gus Malzahn, man, in his bag. I mean, we saw it against Alabama. I mean, Alabama looked like deer in headlights for the entire game. Like they did not know what to do. Where it was running, passing, trick plays. He looked great. He did the same thing today. Just like with the end around with Danzy when he scored. He's keeping these defenses all balanced. If you don't know uh, where to really shift your defense, we're running the ball well, not just with our back, but with Castellano. So you have to be honest. And when you do that, we're going to hit you over the top. And today, it was just good to see a lot of down the field throws. You didn't have to see as much last week in the Alabama game, but like this one, Castellanos didn't play long, but he was attacking downfield, and that was really good to see, man. It's just this team just feels different. Nobody's saying that they're gonna win a national championship this year or anything, but I tell you what, with the way things are setting up, that game October 4th against Miami is going to be bigger than we thought, because more than likely both teams are going to be highly ranked and undefeated, and it's going to have those old 90s, late 80s, early 2000 vibes, when Miami and Florida State literally had championship implications every year. So um, things are setting up nice for Florida State with their schedule. The next couple of weeks, they're off. We have a bye week coming up, and then we play in 2 weeks. Kent State on, I believe, before we go on the road to Virginia. So, um, but yeah, man, things are setting up nice for Florida State to have a really good year and have a chance to, compete to maybe make the, you know, for the ACC and hopefully, slide in with the playoff bid. That's getting a little ahead of ourselves there, but I'm saying it's favorable for them. They still have work to do. They can't let up. They got a lot of games that could slip them up. Like I said, Virginia, that's on the road, and that's going to be a tough environment. Miami, that speaks for itself. The NC State game, Clemson, Florida. So there's room for hiccups, but this team just feels different, y'all. Until proven otherwise, I'm not going to feel any different about it. Just a massive turnaround. You, 2-10 was a disaster last year, and I know a lot of the fan base got really down, got really upset, and the sensible fans of this fan base tried to tell everybody, look, this is not going to be the norm. Like, this is Florida State we're talking about here. Last year was an anomaly. Like, that's not going to be the norm here. We might not be the most talented team in the country anymore like we used to be years ago, but we still have a bunch of talent, and our coaching staff is top notch. So I felt like we were always going to be okay. I felt like we were still going to have a good year this year. Maybe not a championship year, but it was going to be a turnaround. But now with the way these guys look, I mean, they have a chance to do something pretty special this year. Like I said early, still, you got to play the games. Injuries going to happen and stuff like that. But they look really good, y'all. They look confident and they look like they're ready to finally, put the stench of that 2-10 behind them. Man, but it just looks different. And also shout out to Earl Little Jr. again, who, as you guys know, unfortunately, freshman, linebacker Ethan Pritchard. He was unfortunately he got shot in the head after the game last week against Alabama, and he's in stable but critical condition right now. And his dad was at the game, but you saw Earl Little with his jersey holding up, ran out to the field today. And you see all the EP strong hashtags on Twitter and stuff like that. But that was beautiful to see, man. Like it's the family, down there in Tallahassee. And these guys just seem like they really, really ride for each other and want to play for each other. So um, it's different, man. Um, yeah, Mike, it's something special, man. Is we still got to wait and see where it goes, but the team just, they just they feel like they really believe in each other. And one of the biggest reasons for that, I'm telling y'all, was getting Castellanos. Like these guys believe in him. Like when he made that statement about Alabama, about how he didn't feel like they could stop him, and Nick Saban wasn't there to save him. This team didn't shy away from that. Not only did he double down on it, but the team came back and said, "Hey, that's our quarterback. We have his back." So that was just, you know, I think that was infectious. It spread throughout the whole team, man. Yeah, he is the truth, man. Like he just has a swag, a confidence, a belief that not only this team but the alumni believe. I mean, you saw the game last week. Peter Warwick and Dalvin Cook and all these guys on the sidelines, dapping them up and hugging them, after he's scoring touchdowns. Like he has this whole fan base, not just the program, the whole fan base. Yeah, like this isn't the same. This isn't the same, man. And that's the um it's very encouraging to see, it really is. Because this program could have really, really gone into a hole. You know what I'm saying? And you guys remember last year when we were losing all the guys that decommitted, um, all the guys that decommitted and stuff like that. Um, specifically, we lost, three 4-star wide receivers. Dan McCutcheon and C.J. Wiley and Malik Clark. All those guys left. Myron Charles and Peyton Joseph. All those guys left last year, and you know that sucks, man. Because we had what looked like could have been maybe a top 10 recruiting class last year, and all those guys left. But right, the way they revamped the staff, the way they killed it in the portal, another top 10 portal class, and getting Castellanos was the icing on the cake. He brought a new energy, new swag to this program. He brought a belief, and that can carry you a long way. Um, when you have the talent on top of it, you have the coaching on top of it. Like that's a recipe for success, man. And it's just, man, what a difference a year makes, right, y'all? We're doing a whole 180 right now because this time last year we were 0-2, and you could tell that the season was already done. It was just when was it going to be over? But now we have something to really be excited about. Um, with this program, man, it's a talent. It's a lot of talent, a lot of belief, a lot of just like I said, the brotherhood. They just look so together. Because I was really watching that. Once the backups got in, I kept looking at the sidelines every time we scored because we were scoring so much. We scored on our first 10 possessions. We ended up with 729 yards. The 74-point win was the tie for the largest ever in school history, equaling the one they had in 1949. So, it was just, man, like you would just think that once you get up that big, guys are going to be relaxing. But these guys were literally right there on the sidelines, like right there by the coaches, clapping, cheering, encouraging, like telling guys, come on, clapping and hustle and stuff like that. And man, like whew, you just love to see that because that shows you a camaraderie and belief, and that can take you a long way. When you put the town on top of it, it's really good to see, man. But I didn't want to keep y'all too long today. Let y'all get back to enjoying some football. I'm enjoying some football myself. It's some games going on right now that I'm very interested in. But yeah, just want to jump on here real quick and recap this impressive win. Now, a lot of people will poo-poo it because it's East Texas A&M, but hey, man, no, we take all the wins, and in a game like this against a lesser opponent, like I said, the key is to remain sharp, and we looked razor sharp on both sides of the ball today. So shout out to the squad, shout out to the coaching staff for coming in prepared, and doing what they need to do. Exactly, Mike. Win is a win. Win is definitely a win, man. And yeah, it just gives you a good feeling about this year, man. We're gonna end up having a, a really good football team. Hopefully, when November rolls around, we're in a position where we can challenge to, play for the ACC title. Because you win the conference, you automatically going to the college football playoffs. So, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's take this bye week. Get healthy. We had some guys that got banged up a little bit. I know Squirrel White. I haven't seen the update on him yet. His wrist was was heavily taped up. I don't know the diagnosis on that. A couple guys got nicked. I know Stephon Thompson. Uh, he got nicked up. But I think he walked off on his own power. So yeah, get healthy and uh, get ready to get back on it. We play Kent State, man. Like it's setting up to be good, Joe. If we stay focused and we keep playing to the best of our ability, man, we're gonna surprise a lot of people. Um, which probably, hey, mom, my mom down there, y'all. Yeah, yeah, it's different feeling around this program, and everybody get ready, man. It's gonna be a better year than a lot of people think. Even better than some of those fans thought. They even thought we were gonna make a turnaround. It feels good, y'all. It really does. And I know I'm not the only one to feel it. I know y'all feel it too. But yeah, let me get on out of here. Enjoy the rest of the day. No Nation, y'all have a good one. Salute. Keep on supporting. Y'all like, share, and subscribe, to the channel. Like, we can get this thing growing. Y'all can find my work. I write for FSU Wire. So anybody wants to read anything, about the boys, go check me out there. But yeah, man, we are rolling and not no roll tide, because that's full tide. We took care of them last week. But yeah, y'all, I appreciate it. I'll probably be back Monday or Tuesday for another show to kind of, talk some more about what happened this week. But y'all stay safe, stay blessed, and as always, go Noles. Have a good one.